we learned yesterday how you know that Kmitza has to be done biyamin. Right? We had the psukim of by Nazir, by Mitzvah it says that the kohen pours the oil on kapaya smallest, and we ended up finding that it said smallest 4 times. But from one of the 4 times we learned that dafke does kapay stam mean smallest by the Mitzvah, but where it says kaf elsewhere, like by Kmitza, it means the Amanis. That was the gist of what we were dealing with yesterday. Amarafa. So we are about 7 lines down on the top on that Yudam Aleph. Amarafa. Me'achad iksiv. It says in the pasuk al dam ha'asham. The al mekayim dam ha'asham. Uchsiva. So from there we learned about that it could be on the side of the stam, but it can't be on the back side, right? Valmokim dam ha'asham. Uchsiva yumonis b'dam. And it says by the avodah of dam by the Mitzvah, it says al boyin yodei hayamonis, al boyin ragla hayamonis, and by Shemin as well. It says Chsivi b'Shemin the Mitzvah. I'm sorry, Dixie the Shita Mukabet has changed. This is vav to a dal. So we've darshened all the psukim of dam ha'asham and boyin yodei. But in Ragloi, what about the Chsivi b'Shemen, the Mitzvah, Ashir v'Ani Lomali? Why did it have to say on Bain Yodai and Bain Ragloi Hayamonis by the Mitzvah? We understand why it says it by Ashir, but why does the Torah have to repeat it by Ani? As Rashi says, Lomali l'mahader l'michtiv Yamonis b'Shemen. Why did the Torah have to repeat the whole thing of Yemonis b'Shemen? Loy lichtov loy ba'ani v'loy ba'asher. Ne'id al boyan yiseri. It's trichi. We said the fact that it says boyan extra. That's very important. Side the ani the asher lahachshir l'tzadin v'lichsal tzadid tzadin, as we just learned at the end of yesterday. Eliyamonis lamali. Could have said Albayin Yodev, Albayin Ragloi. Why did it speak out Yamonis? We already knew that Stama means Yamonis. We know it from the dam, right? This is first they put the dam on, then they put the oil on. So we know already from the dam it has to be Yamonis. So why did the Torah have to speak out Yamonis side by the ani and side by the asher? El Amarava. Yad. The reason why it says Yad, again, Albayin Yodai Hayamonis, Yad is L'Kmitza. The reason why it says Albayin Yodai Hayamonis is to teach us a Gzeres Shav that we made from Yad. It's by Yad over here, we know it's Yamonis, it says Albayin Yodai Hayamonis. And it says Yad, it doesn't really say the word Yad, it says Kapoi, which refers to Yad by Kmitza, and we have a Gzeres Shav Yad L'Kmitza. So clearly, Rava isn't learning like we learned yesterday, that you know it from smallest. So let's see Rashi. Alama Rava, lesa l'mayde avke l'kmitza d'smoil posel midrasha darba smallest. So clearly, Rava is not going with the drasha that we learned yesterday, because he's learning the way you know that the kmitza of a carbon mincha has to be with his right hand. He learns that from Gzeres Shava of Yad. It says Yad by the Mitzvah. By when he places Shemen al boyin yodei hayamonis, and it says Yad. There's no general rules. I mean, we have that general rule because of the benefit of all these drushes, but I don't think there's a general rule. The imkain yumonis, the imkain yumonis, the bein Shem and the Usher. Bein Shem and the Ani, Lamali, why do we need both? Liyamonis, the Shem and the Usher is Lahidra Shahasya. We still haven't dealt with why you need Boyin Yadei Hayamonis by the Ani. So when we're discussing the Matna Shemen of the Usher, that Yad we use to teach us that Kmitza has to be with the right hand. But we still don't have a reason for the Boyin Yadei Hayamonis mentioned by the Shemen when it's talking about the carbon of the ani. And that the Gemara is going to get to. Okay, regel lechalita. Why did it say Valboin Yodei Hayimanis? Sorry, why did it say Valboin Ragle Hayimanis? From there we learn that just like the shemen by the Mitzvah has to be placed on his right toe, so too the chalitza must be done with the right foot. The shoe has to go on the right foot. The whole process is done with the right foot. And oizen, right? It says Alboin Yodei Hayimanis Alboin Ragle. Then it says about Altnuch Osnei, right? Altnuch Oizen Hayimanis. To learn that it says Oizen by Mitzvah, the Torah specifies their Yamanis. It says Oizen by the Verata as Osnei by Matzeas Lavadi La'olam, which ear? It's the right ear. Oizen L'Ritzia. Fact the Gemara, Smolis the Asher L'Mayasa. And if you notice, I changed the word of the Gemara from Ani to Asher, but it wasn't me who did that. It's actually Rashi who does that. If you look at Rashi, Smolis Lama Yasa, so Rashi to Asher, Lo Yitzrach, the Smolis of the Asher, which is when the Kohen pours the oil on his left hand, we don't need that pasuk there. Lama Yasa. Bishla Makama, I understand the first time it says Smolis, Lugufei, to tell you that you pour the oil on his left hand. Lo Yimanis. El Tinyana Mai, why the second time where it says Smolis, why does it have to say Smolis there? L'mayasa. So remember this, we're not working here with the four Smolises of before because we have different Lamudim for Yamin by Kamita. Amar Abshisha Varei Rav Idi, Livsal Yamin the Kain the Mitzayra. To tell us that if he poured the oil on his right hand rather than his left hand, it will be possible. If it only said it once, I would think, yeah, the left is kosher, but maybe the right's kosher too. So like Taimar, Umaba Mokim Shol Nisrab so smoil. Nisrab Shimin, Madach in most places, like Duvi mentioned. Only the Yamin is allowed, not the smoil. But Mokim Shol Nisrab so smoil. So when it comes time to pouring the oil on the Kohen's palm to prepare for the matanos, where the Torah specifically says you can use the left hand, surely the right hand would also be allowed, and therefore you need a second Smolis to tell you that it's Dafka Smoil, not Yamin. What about the Idich Smolis? There were other Smolis. Remember, we had four Smolis. What do you do with the other ones? And the Yad, the Regel, Yamanus, the Ani. We just found for it earlier why you use the Yamonis of Yad and Regel by the Usher's carbon, but it was all repeated again by the Ani's carbon. Lamai also, what's that for? So Gemara, they don't have to have a specific limud. Why? Because of what the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, which Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel taught us, called Parsha, Shenemer Venishnis. Whenever a Parsha said and repeated. So the Torah goes through the whole system, the whole process by the Taharis HaMetzora of a Ashir. But then the Torah repeats the whole parsha all over again by the Ani. So here we have a full parsha that was repeated. We've darshaned what all of the different extra psukim are required for by the carbon Ashir. And now we're discussing what about by the carbon Ani. So Zok Rabbi Shmuel, once the Torah has to tell us a new parsha, because the Torah needs to tell us that there's a special carbon for Dallas, a special carbon for poor people that don't have to bring the behemoths. So the Torah normally will repeat all of the details all over again, even though we've already learned those details from the carbon of the Asher. As Rashi says, that is the main chiddush that the Torah is introducing when the Torah talks about the parsha of the Ani. It's talking about the fact that an Ani could bring a smaller carbon. Therefore, even though all those Yemonises and Smoilises were repeated, we don't have to have a drasha for it because it's the derech for the Torah to repeat everything in every detail. Amar Rabba Baruchanu, Amar B'Shim ben Lakish. Anytime the Torah uses in one place the word etzba and the word kahuna, it always means Einai Elo Yamin. It always means the right one. Kasal Kadaita. So at first glance, the Gemara understands what Reb Shimon ben Lakish said in the following fashion: Etzba uchahuna ba'ina. You need both. Side the word etzba, side the word kahuna, and only then does it mean that it has to be the right hand. Kedichsiv, like it says by the carbon chatos, v'lak achakoyin midam machatos be'etzbai. So there it says koyin, it says etzbai. The Gomar Mitzayah, and we will learn chatos, the zrika of a regular carbon chatos from the parsha of Mitzayah. The chsiv v'tavel hakoyin es etzbai hayamonis. Again, this pasuk has the word koyin and etzbai, and the Torah specifies yimonis. That's how I know. That's how I know that the zrika by carbon chatos must be done with the right hand of the koyin. Freik the Gemara, harei kmitza. What about kmitza? The loik siva wa ela kahuna. It doesn't say anything about etzba. And I think we even have the pasuk over here. Maybe we have the pasuk over here. Yeah, then that's not koyin Hashem, and that's not the kmitza. No, it doesn't have a pasuk here. There's no pasuk, but by kahuna it does say a lashon koyin, but it doesn't say anything about the word etzba. Utanan, and we know the halacha is, which was what we've been discussing until now, is kamatz bismoil apostle. So you see, the kmitza has to be done biyamin, but it doesn't have the word koyin and the word etzba. Amarava zakrava in chadami. What it really means is oy etzba oy kahun. If any pasuk includes either the word etzba or the word kahuna, that would mean that it has to be done with the right hand. Now, once again, if we look at the pasuk of kmitza, it doesn't say, there's no word yad at all there, but it does say kain. So that's how we will know it. Let's just see if he has. Rashi doesn't directly speak about mincha here, but Rashi does speak about the mincha about yad. So I really should go back to yad, the kmitza, because it doesn't say the word yad by kmitza. So Rashi says ksiv b'mitzayra asher yada haymonis delo yitzrich. Right, that's the yad, that's the teaching yad where we know yimonis. Ksiv b'kmitza yad v'yimalei kapoi. So the word kapoi is his palm, is as if it says the word yad. But again, it only says the word koyin, it doesn't say the word etzba, and we know that kmitza may only be done in the right hand. Amarava oyet ma'ikun. It's enough to have one or the other, it says koyin. So anytime it says koyin, automatically it means the right hand. Amarle Abaye, I'll show you an example of a place where it says koyin, and it doesn't say etzba, and it doesn't have to be with the right hand. How do we know that? Because the harei haylachas evarim leken. The avodah of the kohanim bringing the evarim from the butchering area to the ramp of the mizbeach. Dichsiv v'hu kahuna. Dichsiv v'hikriv ha'koyin es ha'koyin ha'mizbecha. So clearly it says koyin over there, but it doesn't say the word etzba. V'yamar mar zu haylachas evarim lekevish. That's the avodah that pasuk is referring to. Utanana, we looked in the Mishnah, haregel shall yamin bismoil. With the first koyin that carries out a varim to the kevesh, in his right hand he holds the head of the animal, and his left hand he holds the right foot, but he's holding the right foot in his left hand. When he holds the foot, the cut part of it faces the kohen's body, and someone seeing the kohen will see the foot only. He won't see the place where it was severed from the body. So the problem here is clearly we see that lachatchila he's supposed to hold the aver in his left hand, and it says a lashon kahuna, and according to Rava, a lashon kahuna should be enough. Zakt Gemara ki armin etzba kahuna. You know where we say that either the word etzba by itself or the word kahuna by himself indicates that it has to be the right hand. That's bedavar hama'akav kapara. That's only by an avodah that would be ma'akav kapara. Haylachas evarim lemizbeach is not ma'akav kapara, because technically they could have done the shechita right near the mizbeach and no haylacha would have been necessary at all. Or they could have made a human chain, Rashi says, and they would pass it from one to the next. So no one's being moilach anything. So therefore, for such an avodah, you won't need yamin. But any other avodah that's a necessary avodah, like a shechita, kabbalah, these the necessary avodah that you can't get around, those avodas, if it says either etzba or kahuna, it means it has to be done in the right hand. Fact Gemara. Varei Kabbalah, Kabbalah Saddam is a very much a davar hama'akiv. Kapari, it's a necessary stage. It's a necessary step. You can't get around that. The chasav kahuna, and it says a lashon kahuna over there. The chsiv ekrivu b'nei aharon akohanim es adam zu Kabbalah Saddam. That vehikriv is referring to Kabbalah Saddam. Utnan, and we learned kiva v'smel pasul. That's very good. That's very good. Because it's a davar ma'akiv that says kohen. But Rab Shimon argues. Rab Shimon machshir. So how could Rab Shimon be machshir according to the way Rabbi understands that either etzba or kahuna is the mandate yamin by an avodah that's ma'akiv. Kabbalah Saddam is exactly an avodah that's ma'akiv, and Rab Shimon is matir. Zakt Gemara Rab Shimon kamrit. You're asking me according to Rab Shimon. I never said my klal that either etzba or kohen, either word by itself, by a place where it's ma'akiv d'avodah, that it means with the right hand. That I was saying in the Rabbana. Rab Shimon tartiboy. Rab Shimon says no, unless it actually says etzba and kahuna, it doesn't need the right hand. So Rab Shimon is not. Rabbi's chiddush was not according to Rab Shimon. It was only according to the Rabbana. Okay. Frank Gemara umi boy Rab Shimon tarti. But I'll show you elsewhere where Rab Shimon holds you need yamin, and you don't need both the word etzba and the word kohen. But Tanya we learned, Rab Shimon Naimer, Kol Makim Shenemer Yad, Eino Elo Yamin. Rab Shimon said anytime he says Yad, it means Yamin, he doesn't think about Kuna. Etzba, Eino Elo Yamin. Etzba, Gemara, Etzba Loi Boy. All Rab Shimon is saying is you don't need the word Etzba, but Kahuna, Etzba Loi Boy Kahuna. If it says Etzba, then it means Yamin. But Kahuna, Boy Etzba. But the word etzba is required. So if you need the word etzba to indicate that it's the right hand, and you don't need the word kahuna that has to be the right hand, so why did Rabbi ever say you need both? What is kahuna ever relevant for? It's etzba that indicates that it's the right hand. You're right. The reason why it says kahuna is kahuna means big day kahuna. It's just telling us that the kohen has to wear big day kahuna. But every time it says etzba, that's where it means. That's where it means that you need to do it with your right hand. Let's see Rashi. Etzba loy by kahuna. The heicha the cause of etzba avagav the loiksiv koyin einu el yamin. Umishkachas la ba'achim. Where do you find that? It says logach midam apar be'iza betzboy. So that's an example of etzba loy kahuna, and that also means yamin. Etzba is the key trigger for yamin, not necessarily the word koyin. Correct Gemara, that doesn't fit in either. By Zrika, which is also a very integral avodah, the loiks is vei, ela kahuna, doesn't say etzba over there, which nana we learned. Now, according to you, if it doesn't say etzba, it doesn't mean the right hand. Which nan zark bismoil pasul, v'loi polag Rab Shimon, and Rab Shimon didn't argue. Meaning Rab Shimon also holds that Zrika is pasul if it's done bismoil. Right? What was Rab Shimon talking about? He was talking about Halacha b'Smoil, I believe, right? Or he was speaking about Kabbalah. He was speaking about Kabbalah b'Smoil, it was Matir. But he's not Matir, there's Rika b'Smoil. Well, I follow Rab Shimon. And as well there, it doesn't say both. So if you hold Rab Shimon Tarti, boy, it doesn't say both, yet Rab Shimon holds that by this Rika, it has to be B'Yamin. Amar Abaya, just because you don't see that he argues in the Mishnah, but Polik b'Braisa. Rab Shimon does argue in the Braisa. The Tanya Kibel b'Smoil Posel. Rab Shimon Machshir. Zarak b'Smoil Posel. Rab Shimon Machshir. So this sounds like a very benign Gemara. The problem is there is no such Braisa where Rab Shimon says it's kosher by Zarak b'Smoil, and that is the subject of the long Tosfos. So in Tosfos' first shot, he changes the whole sugya from Zrika to Malika. And he learns the whole parsha means b'Malika. So I'm just going to skip part of the way down. Actually, I'll just run through some of the Tosfos. Tamer Zak Tosfos, the Ein Zeh Ba B'Mishnah B'Shemakim. There is no Mishnah or Brisa that says that. There's no Brisa that says there. Shimon argues by the Zrika. Rav Yaakov Merlin on my polik. Rav Shimon the need the lekasa but elakuna mikol makom asim akeshin is Torah. So there's another kasha he has that why Rav Shimon would hold by Zrika you need Yamin. Okay. The Heshav Rabbeinu Tam the Garcin Acha he changed the whole Gemara. Very Malika. It's very Malika like Siv elakuna utnan malak b'smoil pasul. So he learns the whole sugya is with Malika. And then there was a shot he brings down at the bottom from, I believe, Rabbi Shimon. What is it? From Rabbi Shmuel. And he learns that even though it doesn't say anywhere beferish, that's Rika, by Rabbi Shimon is kosher, Bismail, but he has a diak from another brayso that proves that he would hold so. But Rashi doesn't get into that detail, so Rashi just says that the Gemara, although the Mishnah doesn't say beferish, that Shimon is mater is Rika b'yamin, the brayso does say that. Why? Because it doesn't say etzba. The Alahad Amar Rava. That Rava said, Yad l'kemitza lamali. Rav told us, how do you know kemitza has to be with the right hand? That was some of the extra yad that we found by the Mitzvah, by the Parsha of Shemen, by the Asher, and we learned that yad is extra. Al boyin yada hayamanis. We learned that extra boyin yada hayamanis to teach us from yad here to yad by kmita. That kmita has to be done in the right hand. The problem is Rav also said another Allah. He said whenever it says etzba or koin, wherever it says etzba or koin by an avodah that's absolutely required, it also means the right hand. So lamali mekahuna nafka. We know it from the word kahuna, which Rava said, if it's a mandatory avodah, it's required. Mekahuna nafka is Rashi. The ksiva v'kamatz hakoin v'yam Rav Leil l'Rabbanan deichet ksiv etzba oy kahuna einay eloi yamin. So he already knows from the other rule that the kmitza has to be yamin. Why do I need two separate sources that tell us that the kmitza has to be yamin? Zok Gemara, because there's two avodas related to the kmitza, and we need a special limud to identify that each one of these avodas related to the kmitza need to be yamin. Chad l'chaymet. One is obviously for the kmitza itself. The kmitza itself has to be done with the kohen's right hand. But what does the kohen do after he makes that kmitza? He has to place it into a klesharis. Does he have to place it into a klesharis with his right hand, or could he pass it over to his left hand and put it in the klesharis? The question is it ma'akev? Right? What if there's no klesharis nearby, and you have to put it down and find the klesharis, right? So you have to make sure to pick it up with his right hand. So Zok mechad l'koymetz v'chad l'kibutz l'kidush koymetz. Zok to Gemara, that's a very good shot according to the Rabbana. But the Rab Shimon, the leboi kiddush koymetz, Rab Shimon, we're going to learn later, holds that you don't even have to place the koymetz onto a klesharis. The kohen can take it and go directly to the mizbeach. So oibazoi, according to him, what do I need an extra yad for? If I don't even need the kiddush koymetz, I definitely don't need a limud that it needs to be done with his right hand. And ulaman ba'omar nami. You can take it from the side and put it on the mizbeach. What Rashi says, you can put it into a klei. You can even put it into a klei cheres. It doesn't have to go into a klei sheres. Ulaman damar nami the boy kiddush koymetz. Or even if you hold you need kiddush koymetz, l'Rab Shimon b'smoil achsur machshur. According to Rab Shimon, even if you do need kiddush koymetz, even if you do need to place the koymetz into a klei sheres, who said the klei sheres has to be brought to the mizbeach with the right hand? It can be brought with the left hand. So once again, what are we going to learn from the extra limit of a yad? It can't be referencing the kiddush koymetz, because either the kiddush koymetz doesn't have to be done at all, or it doesn't have to be done b'smoil, or it doesn't have to be done b'yamin. It can be done b'smoil. Zok to Gemara, yad the Rav Alamali. Zok to Gemara, I'll tell you what. Ila kmitza gufa aliba the Rab Shimon. Either for the kmitza itself, according to Rab Shimon. I'm sorry, ila kmitza gufa aliba the Rab Shimon. If it's referring to the kmitza gufa. There we would know it already from Yehuda B'Reid Rav Chia. What did Yehuda B'Reid Rav Chia teach us? My time with Rav Shimon. what's the svara of Rabbi Shimon that you need to make the kmitza with the right hand? The Amar Kra, the mincha, the Torah compares the mincha kodesh kodesham hi kechatas v'cha'asham. Kodesh kodesham hi kechatas v'cha'asham. And how does Rabbi Yehuda Bered Rabbi Chia darshan this pasuk? Bala oivda b'yad. If you're going to take the kmitza b'yad and then bring the kmitza with your hand to the mizbeach, then oivda b'yamin kechatas. Then it's ma'akev that you should do the avodah with your right hand. We actually had this exact drasha in Zvachim. But bala oivda b'kli. But what if you were going to place the kmitza into a kleshares, oivda b'smoil ka'ashim, then you can use your left hand. So Rabbi Chia learns according to Rabbi Shimon a very interesting twist. You can go either way. You can either take the kmitza in your hand and take it to the mizbeach, or you can put it in the kleshares. If you take it in your hand, you have to take it in your right hand. But if you place it in the kleshares, then you can hold the kleshares even in your left hand. So, according to that, we already know that the kmitza has to be bimin. So, ella lekaimetz the minchas chayte. We needed to tell you that even the minchas chayte, which remember we said is like a sub-grade carbon because it's the mincha b'chayte, right? Remember there was even a havamina that wouldn't need. There was a havamina that wouldn't need yamin. In our Mishnah we said maybe it wouldn't even need yamin. Maybe small would be good enough, right? That's why the Mishnah spoke out minchas chayte specifically. That's why you need a pasuk specifically as well. So maybe he comments nami b'smal tis kasher. Maybe it'll be kosher even though you made the kmitza b'smoil. Kamash malon. So according to Rabbi Shimon, you need an extra pasuk to tell you that although we already know from the general rules that the kmitza itself must be done with his right hand, but we don't necessarily know that would be ma'akev by a minchas chayte because it has other leniencies. For instance, there's no oil in it because it's a substandard carbon, so to speak, and therefore you need a special pasuk for it. So let's just learn a very interesting Rashi. Ulu Rab Shimon the boy kiddush kaimitz. The Parag Gimel, which will be soon, we're going to learn that Apropos. The Katani shaloi b'chleisharis psula. If you brought the kmitza to the mizbeach not in the kleisharis, the carbon will be possible. But Rabbi Shimon Machshir, Rabbi Shimon says you don't necessarily have to deliver the kaimitz to the mizbeach in the kleisharis. Upligi trei amiroy lekamon b'gemara. There's actually a machlokes amoyroyim about the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Then the amoyroyim that argue are Rabbi Yanai for Rabbi Nachman by Yitzchak. Chad Omar, one of these two say, time with Rabbi Shimon is the leiboy matan kli. Rabbi Shimon understood. One of these two amoyroyim understood Rabbi Shimon that you don't need matan kli at all, meaning you don't have to place the komitz into a kelei shuris at all. You can take it as it is. The chivun the komitz mechli shuris. Once you already made the kmitza, and everybody agrees that the kmitza has to be removed from the klei sharis, you could even use a cheres pan, a non-klei sharis. The Chad Omar, the other one of the two, Rabbi Yana and Rabbi Nachman Yitzchak, Omar hakoil moedim b'koimit shatoin kiddush. Everybody holds that the koimit has to be placed into a secondary klei sharis. But the machshir Rabbi Shimon shaloi b'klei sharis. That's just by the Haktara itself, but Lamaisa you still have to place, after the Kmitza, you have to place it into a Klei Sharis. So that's what Argamar means to ask. According to Rabbi Shimon, if you don't need Kiddush Kaimis at all, Kiddush Mafarish Rabbi Yanai, which was Rabbi Yanai's understanding of Rabbi Shimon, and according to Rabbi Nachman Yitzchak, the Amar Nami that Rabbi Shimon boy Kiddush, but he holds it could be the Kiddush could happen once you put it into the Klei Sharis, it can be in the left hand. Rabbi Shimon Nami Kiddush Kaimitz, the Smoil Shemayin Midamasha, we know he would allow it even in the left hand. Rabbi Shimon the Kiddush Kaimitz. So therefore, according to them, why do you need a second limud that the Kmitza has to be B'yamin? So the Gemara ended up answering, because by a Minchas Chayte, we wouldn't know that Yamin is Ma'akev, because the Minchas Chayte anyway is done on a lower class. You would have thought he would be Matir. Chaymitz B'smoil, Kamash Malon, that even by the Minchas Chayte it has to be B'yamin. Okay. Zog the Gemara weiter. Kamatz Ba'ala B'yodi Tzror, Oy Garger Melech. So the komitz was deficient. Why? Because part of its content was either a pebble or a piece of salt, or a karet lavoina, possible. It's not pure. They're all basically the same thing. The mincha is deficient. The kmitza is not pure flour. What are only three examples of something that would take up space? Second word tricha. The tanit tzror. If we only had tzror, there I would say it's possible. Shem delav basa kravihi. The tzror has no shaykhs to any carbon. For sure, foreign matter doesn't belong there. That would take away from the mass required of the kmitza. Ela melech lebasa kravihi. Melech anyway, the kmitza is salted because all korbanos have to be salted. Emotis kasher. Maybe the fact that it's melech that wouldn't take away from its content. Vitana melech, that's the ikba v'hade mincha meikara. And if it was melech, because melech never belonged as part of the mincha. It's only supposed to be salted after you make the kmitza before you put on the mizbeach. El levina, the ikba v'hade mincha meikara, levina was an integral part of the carbon. It belonged as part of the carbon. Yeah, you're not supposed to have it in the kmitza, but it's very much in the carbon. It's one of the contents of the carbon. Ematis kasher, the fact that some of it got mixed into the kmitza, maybe it would not be. Magav kamash malon, that even levoina, if it mixed in, is not going to be possible. There are those who ask, so why don't you just say levoina, and I would automatically know everything else. I think Rashi points that out. The kasha of l'shemina levoina, v'chol shkein shoro melech. Just say the biggest chiddush. Shritzak Rashi, itana levoina bereisha. If it omits levoina bereisha, hachanami. You're right. So it starts off with trur because it's talking about foreign matter. Once it mentions that, it says the whole thing. But really, Levina could have covered all of the halachas that we need to know. Okay, we'll stop it. We'll be tomorrow.
To get more people.